Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. And today we dive into more Mongolia, rambling on. A lot's been going on. Okay, let's start with I think I found my favorite statue so far of every country I've been to. I don't know if this is really true, but they do have a lot of cool statues here. And like the art, there's not a lot of street art or graffiti in the middle of the city in Ulaanbaatar, but the more I explored the alleyways and back streets, and everywhere's a back street. If you're not on a main road, there aren't like straight roads connecting any of the main roads. They're all very twisty and turny. So I have found a few cool murals, and I started to find some cool statues, but I found an awesome statue, and it stopped me on the sidewalk, and then I stayed there for like 5-10 minutes, like a long time staring at this, because it's the Predator from the Predator movies on a motorcycle xenomorph, the alien from the Alien series. So the Predator is riding a motorcycle that is entirely like one of the aliens from the Alien movies. That photo is in the Let Me Travel community, and it's fairly new. It's from like 5 or 6 years ago, and there's a guy in Thailand who does this. He dresses up like Predator and rides an alien custom-built motorcycle that he built, which is already pretty awesome. And apparently a Mongolian sculpture artist got so inspired by that he made that sculpture, and it's prominently displayed in front of a giant building on a wide sidewalk on a platform. It's not quite life-size. I guess it's a little smaller because predators are huge, but this Thai predator probably isn't super tall, so maybe it's based solely directly on him. Anyway, it's so cool. It's extremely detailed. It has all the Predator's tech and weapons and all that, and the Xenomorph also is extremely detailed, like articulated digits. Well, I guess they can't actually move, but like they look like they can move. So it looks like this Predator is riding an alien who happens to be a motorcycle. It's so cool. It's so great. I stayed there a long time, and people were just walking by me on the street. I was like, guys, don't you get it? Don't you see what's happening here? This is an art revolution. And then I went online, and I was even more excited to find out that it's real, and there's a guy in Thailand. There's an artist in Thailand who dresses up as Predator and has a few different bikes, apparently, and rides around on Xenomorph or Predator bikes made of bones or looking like alien, like the alien. That's pretty good. That's like, it must be his life's work, and you know what? Life well spent, friend. If that sounds cool at all, you can go on YouTube and just search for Predator riding Xenomorph motorcycle or alien motorcycle, and you'll find it for sure. And you can go to the Lemmy community. It's just Lemmy Travel community, and there's a recent picture of, and it's made in bronze, and it's not greened bronze. Maybe it isn't bronze because it's not tarnished at all. It's a very dull bronze color, but man, it looks very cool. It's not like one solid piece of metal for like it's not one solid piece of metal. It's thousands of pieces of metal shaped together into the Predator and his dreadlocks and his shoulder-mounted weapon and his wrist guard, whatever, and the alien's legs and muscles and feet and everything. It's wildly detailed. So I would suggest getting to the Let Me Travel community if that sounds cool at all, because it's worth seeing. So I'm on Crazy People, so that'll be crazypeople.online/c/travel. And that's it. And that will have all the pictures of what's been going on in travel and some travel information. But that statue is so worth it just to see. I don't know if I can find it online. Okay, moving on. It's so crazy how much this is just, it could just be called Genghis Khan country, And it would make just as much sense when you came here. He's on every banknote. He's half of the brands. There's Khan beer, Khan cigarettes, there's Chinggis beer. Chinggis is the Mongolian pronunciation of Genghis. Yeah, Genghis is the westernized version of his name, Chinggis. Hotels, plazas, everything. The vodka here is named Chinggis or Khan vodka. There's everything. And there's statues of him everywhere and pictures, and it's pretty all-encompassing, the influence he's had on the country, which, of course, I bet if I go to, like, Macedonia, it's going to be Alexander the Great everywhere. Macedonia. I think I like Macedonia the best, but they would have pronounced it more like Macedonia because they didn't have s sound for C's. It would have been a k. Macedonia. Alexander's from what is now North Macedonia. Anyway, yeah, Chinggis Khan is the biggest figure in their history, but it's still kind of crazy to see him everywhere. I guess like in the U.S., there are a lot of things named Washington, so maybe it's the same thing. Yeah, he's on one of the monies. But see, there's not different presidents or different leaders of Mongolia on the different bank currencies. There is Bogd Khan Mountain, which was another Khan. It looked like more modern, who led the country into modernity a bit. But he has the sacred mountain named after him. But most things are named after Chinggis here. When I was walking around, just hanging out, walking around the city, I was walking down the street, and then all of a sudden I realized that I was walking next to or walking by this, like, she couldn't have been more than 6 years old, just this little girl, but she walked like she was a state dignitary or inspection officer. Her hands were behind her back, and she was just wearing, I don't know, little girl clothes, like a little jacket and buckled shoes or whatever. But she very imperiously, not marched, but just like she owned the sidewalk, was strolling down the sidewalk. I don't know if you've ever read those Eloise books, but that's what she struck me as immediately. She didn't look like she was lost or confused or anything, and she was quite young. And I looked around us forward and back, and there was nobody else on the sidewalk, so maybe her parents worked in one of the shops nearby or something. But we walked for half a block, and then I walked past her. My strides are longer than a 6-year-old girl's. And I looked back, and after I had rounded the corner a minute, and there she was, just rounding the corner, still inspecting everything, just observing the world around her. And it was such a funny strut to see from this tiny child. Okay, I just mentioned Bogd Khan Mountain. I climbed Bogd Khan Mountain. Oh, and he was presiding over Mongolia at the time Mongolia declared its independence from China, who claimed it for a bit, but there was no way they were going to fight the Mongolians again. That never worked out for China very well. All I knew about Bogd Khan Mountain was that it was to the south. If I just walked south, I would get there because I can look out the window from my apartment here and I can see it outside of the city far to the south. It's huge. So one day I did exactly that. I just walked out and I started walking south, and I just kept walking south for a couple hours. But like I said, the city's not huge north to south. So I got there, within a couple hours, pretty quick. I don't even think it took a couple hours, maybe an hour and a half, because I was strolling and it was a new part of town and I was looking at statues and stuff I hadn't seen before. But I just walked straight south, and then after, let's say 90 minutes, I got through the outer ring of the city after an hour, and then I was in where they're expanding the city. So there's new apartment buildings going up and a bunch of construction. And I went through that for 20 minutes. There was a bunch of kids walking home from school. And then I was through the construction area, and there was just forest and grass. There was no other structures. And then 10 minutes later on my right-hand side, there was so on the western-hand side going south, there was like a resort. It looked like some kind of fancy resort. and there were a couple wild horses just near the river. And they spotted me, and I only spotted them because they were like, "Roar," and galloped away a couple feet, even though they were already, 100 meters away from me. And I was like, "Oh, horses." And then I just kept walking, and they were a bit skittish. And then 10 minutes after that, I was standing on the foothills anyway, the beginning of Bogd Khan Mountain, which I'd heard was the most sacred mountain in Mongolia. So I didn't want to climb it straight away in case it was like Uluru in Australia, like a sacred rock that you're not allowed to climb. But there was one lady, I'm assuming Mongolian, because she was chanting very loudly in Mongolian, and it sounded super cool. So I kind of meandered slowly around the foothills while I listened to her shout, bellow, chant across what was a valley. She was up in the foothills of Bogd Khan, and then it dipped into a valley where that river was with the horse that went back up to other hills on the opposite side of the river. And this lady was, on those foothills, and she'd just go, "Yeah," and shout out this cool chant that sounded really interesting. And I would like to just stay there and listen to her. But I also wanted to get up the mountain. And I assumed I would be able to hear her for a while, because she had quite a voice, and she was projecting it perfectly, I guess, into the mountain, because it just sounded like it was coming from everywhere. It was really cool. And I don't know if that was meditation or what it was, but I'm glad I got to witness that. And then I just started climbing up the mountain, and I figured I would find a path. There were a couple paths marked on my offline maps. I wasn't sure how accurate they would be or whatever, but they turned out to be very accurate, and there were several other paths beyond the ones that were on my offline maps. So I just walked uphill, basically. I switched path to path. Sometimes I didn't even go on a path, and I just walked uphill. And then I saw there was like special forces, Mongolian special forces placards and signs on one of the trails that I was going up, and it looks like sort of like an obstacle course, like a running course that they're supposed to run up, I guess, because they're the special forces. And I was like, uh-oh, am I supposed to be here? And then, as if in answer, right after that, I saw like grandma and her middle-aged daughter and a Russian or non-Mongolian tourist anyway. I assume all of the white people in Mongolia are Russian because there are a ton of Russians here, border shared and all that. But anyway, I saw another non-Mongolian climbing, and I was like, well, at least there's a couple of us. And a lot of normal people looked like they were climbing the mountain, so it seemed fine. And there were also signs like pointing, this is the top of the mountain, this is whatever trail, and this is the rest camp. So I assumed, I made the educated guess that it was okay to climb the clearly marked mountain that other people were also climbing. While I was walking up the mountain, I was like, are there any predators here? And there are a couple big cats, snow leopards and a Pallas cat, and then they have boars, and there's yaks, of course, and there's gazelles and antelopes over in the desert, and a few camels. It looks like there's like 300 something left. They're endangered at this point, but they're in the Gobi Desert. So when I was reading that climbing up the mountain, I saw leopard, and I was like, what? And it was still, the trees hadn't leaved yet, sprouted leaves or spines or whatever. So I just looked up into the trees, and I didn't see a leopard looking down at me. So I was like, well, that's good. So I kept climbing. And I eventually made my way to the top, and I kept saying Special Forces running track on several signs. And I got to the top, and I was like, yeah, me and the Special Forces. Twinsies. And the problem was that it was still gray, and I assumed it always was, but after the third week in Mongolia, things started getting really green. So, yeah, now I know. Things are turning green, but they're only green for like a few months, and then everything goes back to gray, and then it's freezing, and then it's snowy for 6 months. And when I got to the top, there was a nice little vista to look over, and I could see behind the mountain, and that's when, after that mountain, there's no more city, there's just a whole bunch of towns, and mostly just open country. There are towns all across Mongolia, but there's so few people across such a large area that it's just area. It's just huge land. So I do kind of want to go backpacking across this country and not just stay in the city next time if I return. That'll be the number one priority, to go out hammock camping into Mongolia, into the backwoods of Mongolia. BoatCon was cool. I climbed back down, I got some food, and I headed on home. Actually, it was kind of dull because I do like forests and I do like water, and BoatCon had neither of those. On my way back, I stopped at a supermarket and I saw caviar for $2, like a bunch of it, and I was very confused, and I got it, and it was really good. And I was like, wait, is this real caviar? Because it was salted and fishy and just tasted good and just a little tacky. So I was kind of confused, and then I translated it because something, and it turns out it was imitation. It was made from kelp. But that was the best kelp caviar I ever had. And then I saw they had other brands of kelp imitation caviar in other places, but those all tasted like the standard total crappy imitation caviar. If you've ever had imitation caviar, it usually just tastes like rolled compressed kelp balls. It's not great. That one I tried was good. I actually had it again, and I was surprised. It does definitely, it tastes not bad. But I was confused for a couple days and thought maybe it was real caviar, until I had the bright idea to translate the label on the package, where it very clearly says imitation caviar, which makes a lot of sense for $2 for like 2 big things of caviar. So there's one good imitation caviar I've ever had, not as good as regular caviar, but pretty good for $2, and then a whole bunch of terrible caviar for also $2 to $3 for each brand. Ooh, I got some material from a abandoned jacket on the road. I washed it in my washing machine here. It was already clean. It was just on the sidewalk, and nobody picked it up for 4 days. And I've been wanting to improve the pockets on my day bag because they can't always hold a can of beer or any taller bottle, something like that. They can only hold a short thing because I was testing how a pocket would work on my bag. And then I found this jacket, and I was like, perfect. So I took it up after a few days, and it looked clean, but I always just wash the stuff anyway. So I washed it and then cut out the liner, and it worked great for the pockets. I made 2 tall boy-sized pockets on my day bag now, and now I have a little extra storage on my backpack, and the pocket looks better because the ones I made were just a test, but they worked so well that I never took them off, but they weren't sewn very tight to my little backpack, and they just looked crappy. And the new ones look pretty good and they have more capacity. And then my host here thought that was really cool, so I gave her some fabric because she wants to add pockets to her day bag as well. Oh, and then I went to the mall because I was looking for blank. I was looking for something. So I walked around the whole mall, and after a while I was just, discovering, exploring the different... And nothing really caught my eye except I saw there was an IMAX theater on the 4th floor, which I didn't really expect, but they have one. Actually, they have 3. I went to all 3 of them eventually. But this first one I went in, and there was a giant Mortal Kombat 2 mural behind all the ticket kiosks. And I thought to myself, well, because it seems fun. It seems like a dumb, fun movie. I liked the original, and I like Mortal Kombat. Why not? Why not go watch Mortal Kombat 2 in IMAX? Seemed like a dumb afternoon. So I went a few days later, and I saw it in IMAX, and it was fine. Not a great movie, but I think I remember the new Mortal Kombat 1 where it's basically like Sub-Zero and Scorpion's clans fighting against each other. I think that one was better, but I don't know, maybe. I still had fun. I mean, I went to an IMAX theater and watched Mortal Kombat. It was a dumb couple of hours that was kind of fun. I think I wanted the choreography to be better. I wasn't blown away by the fight choreography, and I feel like in the first movie, the fighting was not bad, but maybe I was drinking a bunch of beer with the first movie, who knows. I mean, the first rebooted movie a few years ago, whatever that was. The second one, just the fighting seemed very slow and very straightforward, like very, very punch. Okay, I'll block this punch, but then I'll punch. Okay, but I'll block this punch. There were a couple cool moves. I think Katana had a couple cool moves. But yeah, the fighting didn't super impress. And it looks like there's going to be a third one, so if that's playing and I'm near an IMAX, I'll probably go see that in the theater too. I still had fun. And it's just cool to be in an IMAX. Big screen, blasting entertainment into your face. Oh, and then all of a sudden, after the second week, here where it was cold, like freezing cold, one day to the next, it got warm and I couldn't even wear my jacket for several days. It was just way too hot. So they have warm snaps and they got cold snaps because after 3 days of heat, the heating turned off atmospherically and it was quite chilly again. And it's been cold again for a week after that, but it was a very surprising warm snap. I wore my jacket out like normal and then I was sweating within 5 minutes. And I didn't realize it though. I kept walking and I was like, weird, it's still hot. I wonder why I feel hot because it's been cold the whole time I've been here. And I realized it was hot. It just was a warm day and the second day and the third day. And I was like, wow, did the seasons just change? But then they reverted. I found a new word for wandering around aimlessly. Tootle, Tootle. It just means to go around, to sort of wander around. And I was like, hey, that applies to me, but bit of a tootler. Bit of a tootler doesn't sound as good as bit of a rambler. Oh, Korea, Expedition 33. It's like American McGee's Alice. I already talked about that. Don't know what that's still doing here. Oh, I went into a tiny shop to get some soda water. And on my way out, I was put the soda water on a table to put it in my backpack, and then I realized there was like a fancy purse right in front of me, and there were two ladies a few tables away, and this was it was in the corner, but the corner you could see the corner, everyone could see it, and it wasn't a tiny bag, it was fairly large, but it looked very fancy and expensive, and nobody was around, and there was only those two ladies and then the clerks, and so I called the clerk over to get the bag, and that was my good deed for the day. I'd been in Ulaanbaatar for a couple weeks, or maybe a few weeks at this point, and I still hadn't been to any of the bars. I don't like bars in general, but they're nice in some countries. Like, I like pubs in Ireland. They're very comfortable. They're much more comfortable than U.S. American pubs or a Chinese bar, which is just loud music and terrible watered-down drinks. So I figured I'd check out the Mongolian bars since I was here. And I went to Chinggis Club, but it was totally full. I went to some German thing that was totally full, and both of them were just a little too busy for me. And then I stopped by a lounge and pub that I've been seeing all around. There's a lot of lounge pubs here. And it was less full. There were still a bunch of people, but I could get a table right away. And I finally got to try some Mongolian food, and I got noodles or rice. What did noodles? I got a spicy chicken noodle dish, I believe. But that's the fact that I can't even remember what I got. That's about how good the food was. It was, I'll say, the best Mongolian traditional dish that I have had up to that point in Mongolia. But it didn't knock me on my butt or anything. You know what I noticed the other day? There's a ton of electric bicycles here, and a ton of people have motorcycles or electric bikes, like electric cycles. And Mongolians love weaving on them, which is something I always did as a kid on my bicycle. Whenever I would ride my bicycle, I always would weave back and forth when I was going down the street or in the park. I just loved weaving. It was very fun veering around. And my parents always told me to cut it out. And I saw someone doing it the first day I was here, and I was like, oh, look at that. That's funny. And then the next time I went out, I saw someone do it. And then if I'm out, people are weaving on their bikes. Like adults, old people, young kids, they all do wheelies if they have a motorcycle or an electric bike, and they all weave around. Like, they love weaving. And I wonder what that is, because I don't think I've seen that in any other country, and I've been to plenty of countries with, like, lots of scooter culture and motorcycle culture, and this is the first one where I'd say, like, 1 out of 5 people you see on a 2-wheel vehicle is gonna be weaving down the road here. It's a lot of people. Okay, fine, 1 out of 10, maybe not 1 out of 5, but even 10%, 1 out of every 10 people you see is weaving. That's a lot. Even if they're on the sidewalk, they'll weave, or if they're on the road, they'll be weaving. They're just having a good time. There's also a ton of news broadcasts here. Maybe it's because it's such a tiny city and I walk around it so much and I walk long distances generally, but I've probably seen 10 news broadcasts. 10? Yeah, actually, probably close to 10, because some days I saw 2 in a row, and they were just interviewing people. But I walk a lot every day in every country, and I don't see that many news broadcasts. So I wonder if there's like a local broadcasting mandate for news where they have to talk Ulaanbaatar so that you pay more attention to Ulaanbaatar. Like, that's what Canada did. They didn't want to be inundated by U.S. American music and television, so they made it so that you had to have a certain percentage of Canadian music and television on the airwaves. So I'm wondering if Mongolia has that too, like they need to get a certain amount of news out so you can get a grant from the government if you're willing to go out with a crew and interview Ulaanbaatar people. And I was always afraid they'd call me over, but that's one of the nice things about here is that no one cares that I'm not Mongolian, which is very rare in a lot of Asian countries. They're like, tourist! And they want to talk or they just want to point or stare. And in Mongolian, people don't really care. There's a ton of Russians here, so I think that's what it is. They're very used to seeing non-Mongolians. Oh, you know what I got to talk about? There's a super great chicken restaurant, Korean chicken, with a funny name, Mom's Touch. Does that sound weird to you? It sounds weird to me. Mom's Touch? I don't know. It's just, I'm sure there's so many close phrases that you could use for that. Like, a touch of mom's cooking, or mom's cooking, flavor of home, like stuff that's really close to that, but they went with Mom's Touch, which I feel like a marketer should have told them not to use that exact phrase. You want to get some chicken? Yeah, let's go to Mom's Touch. And it's not written in Mongolian. It's English Mom's Touch. That's the only sign they have. But you know what? Mom's Touch makes some good fried chicken. Not the best, but pretty good. And I had it twice, so it's not bad. On the other side of the spectrum, and I'm actually going to call them out because I don't want anyone to eat there, is someplace called Chico's, Chickos. It was the worst, almost chicken, I guess, I've ever had in my life. It was supposed to be Korean chicken, but it was not crispy. It was very soggy. It was super, super sweet sauce. And the texture of it straight up just tastes like frozen chicken and then way overcooked in the oil. So it was crazy tough to eat. Oh, that was some bad chicken. Okay, the other thing, I don't really like chicken. I think chicken is my least favorite meat. But it's so popular here in Mongolia. I've been eating Korean chicken and trying different ones because Korean fried chicken is the only fried chicken I like. And I have had some good Korean fried chicken here. But boy, Chico's really balanced the scales in terms of giving me some terrible chicken to offset all of the good chicken I've had here. That was the worst. Don't go to Chico's if you go to Ulaanbaatar. You will be disappointed. Hey, did you know Megalobox has a season 2? I didn't. I saw the first season. A lot of fun. And then just now, or I don't know, whatever, a week ago, I looked it up. And I think I was checking something. I can't remember. I was checking something and they mentioned season 2. And I was like, but what? Because it feels like a pretty complete story, season 1. So I didn't even look for a season 2, but they made one and I watched it and it was also good, even though it was completely different, very different attitude and style, but that's good. And it's only 13 episodes. Love that animes do that. They're like, this is the story in 13 episodes. Then it's done. So I'm glad I saw the second one. I did watch the entire first season again because that's just fun. That's just a good, fun time so that I could prepare for season 2. Oh, yeah, and there's a totally ridiculous plot line where it's like, yeah, and you just gave up on him because of that. But the reason was extremely good. Like, it makes perfect sense that he gave up on that person and didn't try to contact them. That was really funny in the show. I don't want to spoil it. You should go watch Megalobox seasons 1 and 2. Probably 1. I feel like season 2 is too emotional for a lot of people. It won't be as exciting, but I liked it a lot. I went to Chojin Lama Temple. Chojin Lama Temple is a famous Tibetan Buddhist temple. And there was a little prayer wheel in the beginning. There's a bunch of cool statues. There's a really interesting red deity of life with a coral mask made up of 8,700 pieces, like tiny pieces of coral. Pretty cool mask. I suggest looking it up on the Google or the DuckDuckGo or whatever because it looks cool. It's intricate, and there's a lot of paintings on it. The funniest thing I saw in that whole museum, though, and there's a lot to look at. There's a ton of masks, and it was really interesting. And the guard snapped at me for taking pictures inside, so I didn't. But definitely the funniest thing I saw, there was like one main Buddha display thing in one of the rooms in the middle, and then on either side there were cabinet doors open and smaller Buddha displays inside there, still kind of large, couple feet tall, large. And on the left side, there was some Buddha doing something. And then on the right side, there was some Buddha doing something. But then behind these sliding open doors, so you wouldn't see it unless you're standing at an angle so you can see behind the door that's open, there looked like there was a Buddha fanning out his cloak and then a monk sort of kneeling but sort of leaning in to kiss the Buddha on the cheek. And I was wondering if they didn't want to display that because they didn't know what the heck to do with it because it looked weird, the monk kissing the Buddha. It looked like the monk and the Buddha were about to start making out. And I wanted to take a picture of it so bad, but I didn't because I respect the spiritual rules of countries. But I looked at that for a long time because I couldn't figure out what else it would be except that monk was trying to kiss that Buddha. Because his head was not covered, and neither was the Buddha's. There was just a monk going from like a praying position midway up, giving a peck to this deity who looks like the other Buddha deities. So I just wanted to know what was up. So I kept going over that display and looking around the door where it was kind of pushed off to the side. What is going on there? I don't know, but it was great. It was really funny. Maybe it was just paying homage to a Buddha, and you can make out with Buddha, and that's cool. Probably is. Chojin Lama Temple also had a big old bell that you could not ring, and a little donation box, and I don't know, a bunch of cool statues. It was worth visiting for sure. It was only $4 for the ticket or whatever. I think it was 15,000 tugrik, and there was plenty of amazing traditional ancient art to see. Oh, you know what was really cool? I think my favorite piece of art there was the, besides the coral mask, which you just can't help but be sort of awed by that. The 8 hells of fire and the 8 hells of ice, or the 8 fire hells and the 8 frozen hells. It's something like that. And they're on opposite sides of the room. And it's just a depiction of, I guess, the Mongolian 8 different hells, and they have a fire hell and an ice hell. And it's really interesting. It's very detailed, and yeah, there's just different punishments, sort of Dante-y. Oh man, so right after I did that, I was walking around the mall again to check the next films playing at the IMAX because I had such fun watching Mortal Kombat. And someone I didn't know texted me, and I was confused. For most of the conversation, even after I found out who it was the best man from the wedding that I'm going to where I'm a groomsman. And all those people live in the same town, and I've been traveling forever, so I only know the groom. But this guy texted me really weird, cryptic messages. And I figured out later it was because, probably, I'm assuming he was texting like that because he was on a bunch of painkillers and meds, because he sent me a gory photo of his calf, part of his calf being ripped off his leg because he kick-started his dirt bike, slipped off the kicker, and then if you've never ridden a motorcycle, the stationary pedals on either side are pegs so you can rest your feet, or your passenger can rest their feet while they're sitting on the back of the bike. The peg, his peg, he started it, so the bike went forward, and the peg ripped off part of his leg. And he doesn't know me, but he texted me several messages, cryptic messages, and then sent me super bloody gory photos of his ripped up leg. But it looks like he got to the hospital okay, and they sewed him up pretty good. And the last thing he messaged me was, sucks, exclamation point, which, yeah, it does look like it sucks. I said diagnosis and prognosis in one. He looks a bit more healed up now, a few days later, so congrats. I'll see him there, bust some moves at the wedding dance. But that was just a surprise. Popped into my life the other day. Elevator cat. There was an elevator cat. There was a couple in the elevator when it opened, and there was a cat, and this food bowl was placed directly in the middle of the floor, and I didn't quite parse what was happening right away. But then I walked in, and the cat was cute and eating, and he didn't seem bothered at all that, one, he was not inside a house, that he was in an elevator, and that he had to eat in a moving box. Didn't seem to bother him at all. And it looks like they were just trying to lead him outside. I guess he doesn't like to be carried? I have no idea. I don't know why they were doing it like that. But I got off first when we got to the ground floor, and then the man picked up his bowl and put it 3 meters away, and then the cat ran up to it. And then he let the cat bite a bite and then put it 3 meters away again. And I watched them hop frog the cat toward the door. It was just really fun to see that happening. When? I've never seen that before. I've seen cat carrier. I've seen people carry their cats. I don't think... And I've seen people even trick their cat like that, but I couldn't figure out why he was doing it to get out of the building, because he had to go... You're going to have to go through 2 security doors, and then I assume go outside to get to their vehicle. Is that how they always move their cat? They just, 3 meters at a time, move his food bowl to trick him into wherever they're going? That's amazing. And it was very exciting to see. I went to the botanical gardens of Ulaanbaatar, which I could not get into. I couldn't find the gate. There was a big fence all around them. And when I peeked over the fence, it didn't look that great anyway. But I don't know. Maybe I couldn't see the actual gardens from where I was. I walked all around it, but I don't know. Maybe they're doing renovations or something, because I couldn't get in and nobody was in there. I shoplifted a beer. This was an accident. I went into the store, and I was carrying 3 beers, and then I had to grab seaweed. So I put one of the beers in my pocket, grabbed the seaweed, and then Study Boy saw me, the chicken guy, and we talked for a little bit, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to see you later. And I went and checked out, and then I was listening to a podcast very intently all day. I think that was the same day I went to the Botanical Gardens. There's this podcast called Intelligence Matters, hosted by a former CIA director, and he just interviews intelligence officials, and it's pretty interesting if you want to learn what's going on inside the government and DOD. Inside the minds of the people who actually work and worked there. So I was listening to this podcast, and I didn't really know. I was just carrying my stuff for on the way home. And then when I got to the building, I put my hand in my pocket to get my keys, and I was like, oh, right. I had 3 beers, and now I'm carrying 2. Third one was in my pocket. Sorry about that, supermarket. I buy a bunch of stuff from them. I'm kind of I guess it's okay. I didn't want to walk all the way back. I can't speak any Mongolian. It would have been very weird, I think, if I went back. And more than that, honestly, I just don't care. It's 1 beer. They're fine. That's really what it is. I just wasn't too bothered by it. But you know what I want to end this on? The kushur, which is a word I have heard a few times, but it wasn't really... It was explained to me very poorly. They explained it to me as dough with meat. And I was like, okay, that describes a lot of foods. And they also said it was a street food and it wasn't that good. But everyone says the street food is not good in their country. And so far, everybody is wrong. I usually, like, if I'm in Germany, get me a kebab. If I'm in Thailand, I want one of those turmeric sausages. And now, when I am in Mongolia, I will want kushur. Kushur is now my favorite Mongolian food, hands down, bar none. Noodles, whatever. Rice, yeah, sure. The boots, This was good. This was minced meat. I believe yak meat, although I'm not sure. Actually, it's probably beef because it was a little tougher than yak meat. But anyway, it's minced, which is really nice, and it's kimchi and minced meat in a very fluffy fried pastry, and they make it fresh when you order it at the place I found, which I was walking by, and as I passed it, a man stepped out, lit up a cigarette, and started smoking, and for some reason, I turned back. I didn't know what a kushur was at this point, and I can't read Mongolian, so I don't know what's going on. But I turned around, and for some reason, I was like, I got to go in there and get the food. I got to check the food at least. And I went inside, checked the menu, and I was like, oh, this is that thing I've been hearing about that I should try. And I tried the kimchi and meat, and hot diggity dang, it was real good. So I went back every single day. I've been in Mongolia since for over a week straight. I just keep going back and getting 2 or 3 kimchi and meat kushur, sometimes a cheese and meat one, although I love the kimchi and meat one. It's just delicious. And they have a spicy soy sauce that you can put on it too. Oh, it's so good. And he has the glass bottle Coca-Colas. Good on him. So I'll get one of those and a couple kushur. I did have a beer with them once, but it's great. It's a great food. And if you go to Mongolia and you're not particularly enthused by the food, I would certainly recommend that kushur. Because once you eat it, you'll be like, okay, yeah, they got something going on. That kushur makes me interested about what other cuisines I should be looking for while I'm here. But I've asked a lot of people, and I have basically been getting 0 recommendations. Everyone's just like, just go have pizza or Korean chicken or whatever, sushi. Thank you very much for listening. You can talk to me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or Blue Sky and Lemmy. Have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon.